Good morning. What we're doing today is a cast iron repair on a pot-bellied stove. It's one of the legs are broke that hold up the stove, so we're gonna do a cast iron repair on that. The steps we're gonna take, first I'd just like to say that we're gonna use a nickel rod. You always use a nickel rod when you weld cast iron. It's 99% nickel, the stuff we're using. And I'll get a shot of the box before we actually start doing the repair so you can see exactly what we're using. This is the procedure that we're going to do in order to do this. Now when you're doing cast iron, it gets chaotic when it starts because you can't stop, or else you can potentially crack the weld or crack on the toe of the weld if it cools too quickly. So I'm going to kind of outlay this right here, and then once it starts, it's kind of chaotic. So the steps that we're going to do, we're going to grind, tack, grind the other side, preheat, weld, post heat, then we're going to put it in an oven and let it get to 250 degrees the entire part. If you don't have an oven, you can bury it in sand. That's a common technique used to slowly cool the material. Then we're going to grind again, preheat again, weld again, post heat again, and then peen it till it's getting down to around, I don't know, 300, 250 degrees ish. And then we're going to pop it back in the oven overnight and just let it slow cool, all right? So what does all that mean? Let me come back to here. Let's say this is the part right here. This represents the crack, that line right there. This hidden line right here is in green is the middle of the part, right? So we're going to start again by grinding. So we're going to grind right here until it's just shiny. We're not going to go down into it. And then we're going to put 3 tacks on it. And then we're going to grind it on the other side right here. And you want to grind more than 50% of the way through the part, right here. So we're going to grind more than 50% through the part. On the second grind, we're going to preheat away from the actual weld zone so that the heat can travel through real nice and it's not localized heating because that'll cause your cracking. Then we're going to weld this, all right? Then we're going to post heat, again, letting that heat get all through the whole part. We're throwing the oven, and then we're going to come back and we're going to grind again. Like I said, more than 50% on this side, right? So after we grind, we're going to preheat again. We're going to weld it, post heat, peen. So we're going to sit there with a ball peen hammer and just repeatedly hit it. It stress relieves the actual part, all right? And then we're going to put it in the oven overnight. So basically what you're doing is you want the weld to go all the way through this part. That's the goal at the end of the day. So hopefully that'll make sense. I know cast iron videos are tough because it's just go, go, go. But what we'll do now is we'll go out and we'll look at the actual rod that we're going to use. Then we'll get into fixing this pot-bellied stove. So this is the box of rod we're going to use, made by Harris. And you can see it's 3/32 of an inch in diameter by 12 inches long, 10 pounds. There's the specification on it, A5.15. It's usually pretty expensive because it is nickel. But that's a shot of the box, gives you all the information. Moving on. So what we got here is an old, I think they're called pot-belly stoves. And it was in my parents' living room forever, and the leg was always broke. And I found it in the basement. There's the leg. And I grew up to be a welder, so I'm going to fix it now many, many years later. And to get this off, if you look close, if it stays focused, there's a square nut right there holding the broke piece on. And on the other side, it's just a simple flathead straight screwdriver, if you can see that. So I'm going to heat that nut up to the point where it's almost melted, and then run around the other side and try and zip it out with a cordless drill. So let's see what happens here. So we got the part out. It's this little piece right here. I'm going to finish taking the screw out so I can clean it up and make it real nice and let that cool. I'm sure it's hot, so I'm going to take that screw out, let that cool, and then we'll get started on this. Alright, so we're about to get started on this repair. You can see there's a nice clean break right there, and I'm going to have to hold this with my hand, with my one hand right here, while I tack it. So once you start a cast iron repair, it's very difficult to just stop and explain things, because if it cools too fastly, it'll crack. So I'm just going to kind of give you a play-by-play of what I'm going to do right now, and then you're just going to have to watch me do it, I guess, from a little bit back, I guess. So what we're going to do is I'll hit this with a grinder, and I'll tack it 3 places. Then I'm going to flip it over, grind halfway through right here, and right before I weld, I'm going to hit it with a torch to preheat it. Then I'm going to weld the backside. Then what I'll do is I'll hit it with a torch again. I'll throw it in the oven, which is 250 degrees, so it doesn't cool too quickly. I'll bring it back out, grind it again. I'll try and explain what I'm going to do at that point. Then I'll grind out this side about halfway through again, and then we'll weld it again, and then we'll throw it in the rod oven, 250 degrees, and allow it to slow cool for about an hour. And then I'm going to bring it out and grind this off flush, because it has to fit. Actually, the other side, it has to fit up nice and tight on that stove. So right now we're going to start by grinding it, tacking it, preheating it, grinding the other side, welding it. Then we'll take a pause, and then we'll grind it again on the opposite side, and then weld that side, if that all makes sense, hopefully. All right, I just welded this front side. I got to hurry up here. I put it in the rod oven. One thing I forgot to mention is after I get done welding this, you're going to see me peen this, repeatedly hit it with a ball peen hammer to try and do some stress relief. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm using a 99% nickel rod, 3/32 diameter, and running it at 65 amps. So I'm going to flip this over, hit it with some preheat so it doesn't crack, grind out the back side more than halfway through, weld the other side. Things you want to look for are heat treatments, peening, fast movements, I guess, getting this thing done. So I'm going to do all that, then I'll throw it in the rod oven again overnight is what I'm thinking I'm going to do, 250 degrees. And at the end of this, I'm going to peen this, so keep an eye out for that. All right, this gives you a look at what I just did. You can see I trenched that. Don't got much time here, but we got to weld it here and get it back into that oven. So. So I just took this part out of the oven. It's still 250 degrees. That's what the side A looks like. It's gonna have to be ground down. That's the next thing I'm gonna do. Side B looks pretty good. No cracking overnight. So now what I'm gonna do is grind this down with a hard stone, then I'll probably hit it with a flapper disc just to dress it up a little bit, and we will reinstall this. Onward and upward. Okay, just got done grinding this. Came out pretty good. So all we gotta do now is install it back on the potbelly stove, and we're done with this job. So to the install. There's a final look at our potbelly stove, all fixed, standing upright. Hopefully that gives you a good idea how to weld cast iron. We can shut the door on this project. So thanks for watching and subscribing to TV Weld, and we'll see you on the next video.